It is no secret that Lauren Sánchez has always had a taste for the finer things in life, and with 2 high-profile marriages already behind her, she has never seemed too concerned with what the public thinks. But ever since tying the knot with billionaire Jeff Bezos, the spotlight has grown harsher, and the whispers have only gotten louder now. Her messy divorce from Hollywood power agent Patrick Whitesell is back in the headlines, and it is not nearly as polished as her red carpet looks. But Lauren is not the type to sit back and let others tell her story. She is taking control of the narrative and flipping the script in her own way. Lauren Sánchez's romantic history has always carried an air of luxury, and her taste in men is no exception. Today, she is living a life most people cannot even dream of as the wife of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. She moves in a billionaire world of private jets, star-studded events, and designer everything. Yet long before Jeff came into the picture, Lauren was already immersed in a glamorous lifestyle. She had dated NFL players, mingled with the Hollywood elite, and lived in the glow of tabloid attention. But none of her past relationships made waves quite like her 14-year marriage to Patrick Whitesell, a powerhouse talent agent with deep connections in the entertainment industry. Their marriage looked like a Hollywood fairy tale, but in 2019, it ended in a divorce that still raises questions. And now the story behind their split is back. In the public eye for years, Lauren stayed silent, brushing off the rumors. But recently, she has decided to speak out, stepping forward to share her side of what really happened behind closed doors during that seemingly perfect marriage. So what exactly did she reveal? And is there more to this breakup than anyone imagined? The drama is only just beginning. Lauren, once known for co-hosting Good Day LA, married Patrick in August 2005. Together, they built a life that seemed picture-perfect, welcoming. 2 children, Evan and Ella, and raising Lauren's son, Nico, from her previous relationship with NFL player Tony Gonzalez. But behind the glossy public images, their relationship was unraveling in April 2019. They filed for divorce just months after. People magazine confirmed Lauren's romantic involvement with Jeff Bezos by October. The split was finalized quietly, thanks to a prenuptial agreement that kept the legal process smooth compared to Bezos' own high-profile divorce from Mackenzie. Scott still whispers persisted about why they really separated, with some insiders claiming they had simply fallen out of love and that their marriage had become more of a business partnership than a romance. Lauren was often seen out without Patrick. And although Patrick was said to know Bezos personally, the closeness between Lauren and Jeff soon drew attention and sparked speculation of infidelity. But sources close to the couple insisted Patrick and Lauren had already been separated before the relationship with Bezos began. Patrick remarried in 2021 to Australian model and actress Pia Whitesell, blending their families, while Lauren's life took an entirely different path. One that would lead to a wedding that broke the internet in June 2025, when she and Bezos exchanged vows in a billionaire fairy tale ceremony in Venice, Italy, surrounded by celebrities and luxury that few could imagine. Lauren Sánchez and Jeff Bezos' Venice wedding was not just another celebrity event. It was a carefully orchestrated spectacle that solidified their place as one of the most talked about couples in the world. And while the final result appeared flawless, the path leading to that moment was filled with scandal whispers and strategic moves that kept the public hooked from the very start. The ceremony itself took place on the picturesque island of San Giorgio Maggiore, a setting so stunning it could have been pulled straight from the pages of a romance novel. Yet even the decision to move the wedding there was born from controversy after protests from local Venetians about the disruption and excess surrounding the original location forced a change in plans. The final bill reportedly came in at an eye-watering $46 million. But for Bezos and Sánchez, it was worth every penny. The guest list read like the credits of a blockbuster film, with Oprah Winfrey, Gayle King, Bill Gates, Kris Jenner, Sydney Sweeney, and much of the Kardashian-Jenner clan all in attendance. Each moment was designed to dazzle, from Lauren's custom Dolce & Gabbana gown with its corset bodice, lace sleeves, and regal train to the champagne-soaked reception at the lavish Gritty Palace, where guests were serenaded by Ellie Goulding and Matteo Bocelli, son of Andrea Bocelli. But behind the glitz was a love story that began under circumstances that tabloids and the public have never stopped dissecting. Because when you strip away the fairy tale finish, what you find is a timeline that some still view as overlapping romances, broken trust, and a media firestorm that neither Bezos nor Sánchez could fully control. Back in January 2019, Bezos had barely announced his split from Mackenzie Scott when the National Enquirer published a bombshell alleging that he had been romantically involved with Sanchez long before the separation was official. The report claimed that their journalists had trailed the couple across 5 states and 40,000 miles, capturing moments of them together on his $65 million private jet during helicopter rides and at luxury resorts. Bezos did not deny the relationship, but he and his team were quick to assert that his marriage to Mackenzie had been over for some time, and that there was no betrayal involved. The public, however, had questions, especially since Sanchez was still legally married to Patrick Whitesell when the news broke. The coincidence of timing fueled endless theories and opinion pieces, and the fact that Bezos and Sanchez had known each other for years only added to the intrigue. They reportedly first met in 2016 at an Apple event hosted by Matt Damon, where Patrick himself introduced Lauren to Jeff. And while nothing appeared inappropriate at the time, their paths crossed again in 2018, when Bezos hired Sanchez's company, Black Ops Aviation, to film aerial footage for his space venture Blue Origin. Soon after, photographers caught them sharing a helicopter ride in Santa Monica, a photo that would only gain significance later, when their relationship was confirmed in the days following the Enquirer's expose. Bezos made the unprecedented move of publishing a 9-page blog post accusing the tabloid of blackmail and extortion, a strategy that shifted the narrative and portrayed him as a man fighting for his privacy and dignity. Yet for Lauren, the stakes were just as high. She filed for divorce from Patrick in April 2019, and within months, she and Bezos began appearing together in public. Their first official outing came in New York City in May, followed by a headline-grabbing display of affection at Wimbledon that summer. Sources close to the couple emphasized that they had prioritized their children in the early months, keeping things private until both divorces were finalized. The optics, however, were impossible to ignore. 2 high-profile marriages had ended almost in tandem, and now the former Good Day LA host and the world's richest man were openly building a life together. What made the situation even more captivating was how quickly Lauren adapted to her new role. She was no longer just a television personality or pilot. She was stepping into the global spotlight as Bezos' partner, attending world summits, hosting Hollywood power players aboard his super yacht, and accompanying him to space industry events. But unlike many in her position, Lauren was determined to maintain her own identity. She continued running Black Ops Aviation, accepted speaking engagements, and authored her first children's book, The Fly Who Flew to Space, which became a New York Times bestseller in 2024. The book told the story of a small, determined character with learning difficulties who found his way to the stars, a clear parallel to her own life, and an inspirational nod to her struggles with dyslexia. This move was part of a larger strategy to reshape her public image. From a tabloid headline to a philanthropist and role model alongside Bezos, she took on the role of vice chair for the Bezos Earth Fund, launching initiatives like the Greening America's Cities project, with $400 million earmarked. For underserved communities, she pledged millions to fight climate change, supported conservation efforts, and worked with nonprofits aiding families at the US-Mexico border. In interviews, she described herself as unchanged by her relationship with Bezos, insisting instead that he had simply allowed her to be more fully herself. Comparing her transformation to that of the timeless Sophia Loren, she spoke of feeling seen and loved and referred to herself as the luckiest woman alive, yet even. As she presented this image of stability and purpose, the shadow of the couple's beginnings never fully faded. The public still remembered the affair rumors, the suspiciously neat timing of their divorces, and the accusations of opportunism from critics on social media and in gossip columns. And while Bezos' wealth insulated them from many consequences, it also guaranteed that every move they made would be magnified, whether they were spotted vacationing in the Mediterranean, attending Cannes, or hosting a star-studded engagement party in Beverly Hills. The chatter never stopped. By the time the Venice wedding rolled around, the relationship had been tested by years of public scrutiny, yet Bezos and Sanchez leaned into the spectacle, turning their nuptials into a declaration that they had not only survived the drama, but had thrived in it. Still, for those who knew the full history, the ceremony was not just a celebration of love. It was the final act in a story that began with secrecy, media leaks, and carefully calculated decisions. The question that lingers now is whether the same meticulous planning that protected them during their courtship will be enough to guard their marriage against the relentless curiosity of the world. Because if the past has shown anything, it is that Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez are not afraid of the spotlight, but once you invite it in, it never truly leaves. After the Venice wedding, the question on everyone's mind was simple: what comes next for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez? Because for a couple who has already traveled the world, mingled with heads of state, and thrown the kind of parties that make global headlines, how do you top a $46 million celebration? The answer, it seems, is that you do not try to top it, you expand the empire. Their honeymoon was more of a floating city than a vacation. A weeks-long voyage aboard Bezos's 417-foot super yacht Kourou, accompanied by a fleet of support vessels, helicopters, and security boats. And while the yacht itself is a marvel with multiple decks, a pool, a spa, and an onboard sculpture inspired by Lauren, what fascinated observers most was who they chose to invite along. The guest list included a mix of old friends, political figures, and business titans. A subtle reminder that their life together is as much about influence as it is about romance. Each port of call was photographed and analyzed, from the streets of Capri to the hidden coves of Sardinia, with fashion blogs tracking Lauren's every outfit and business insiders speculating on the meetings Bezos might be taking between sunbathing and champagne toasts. But behind the glamour, there is a calculated rhythm to how this couple moves through the world. They do not simply attend events. They make sure their presence is felt. Whether it is at the Met Gala, where Lauren appeared in a dramatic scarlet gown drawing comparisons to old Hollywood icons, or at the Cannes Film Festival, where the two were spotted holding hands on a private pier moments before boarding a tender to the Kourou. Every appearance is both personal and strategic, and yet the fascination with their romance still circles back to its origins, because for some, the beginning will always overshadow the present, and perhaps that is why Lauren has slowly begun to open up about her early days with Bezos. She speaks more freely. Now, about the pressures of the media storm in 2019, how difficult it was to see her family name in headlines across the globe, and how she learned quickly to navigate the unique reality of being attached to one of the most powerful men in the world. It is a reality that comes with immense privilege, but also a level of scrutiny few could endure. She has admitted to moments of doubt, to missing the anonymity of her earlier years. Yet she insists that what she has now is worth every challenge. She describes Bezos as disciplined, curious, endlessly supportive, and says he pushes her to take risks in her career that she might have otherwise avoided together. They have attended UN climate summits, traveled to remote conservation projects, and even journeyed to West Texas for Blue Origin launches, where Lauren has taken on the role of unofficial ambassador for the space tourism company. Always quick with a smile for guests and a word of encouragement for crew members. And while critics online might dismiss this as performative, those close to the couple say Lauren has genuinely embraced Bezos' mission to expand humanity's presence beyond Earth. Perhaps it is that shared sense of purpose that has strengthened their bond, because as much as their story is about romance, it is also about ambition and alignment of vision. Bezos himself rarely speaks about his personal life, but in one rare interview, he described Lauren as adventurous and fearless, qualities he clearly admires and seeks out in a partner. Their compatibility is visible in the way they navigate rooms together, often moving as a unit, yet allowing each other space to shine individually. Still, it would be naive to ignore the challenges ahead. Wealth can insulate, but it cannot erase the human dynamics of marriage. Jealousy, boredom, and outside temptation remain threats in any relationship. And for a couple whose every move is dissected by the press, those threats are amplified. Yet if there is one thing the past 6 years have proven, it is that Bezos and Sanchez are adept at managing narratives. They know when to step into the spotlight and when to retreat. They understand that sometimes the most powerful move is to let the world wonder what is happening behind closed doors. In a way, they have become their own brand, a blend of romance, entrepreneurship, philanthropy, and aspirational living that is as marketable as any product Bezos has ever sold. But as with any brand, the challenge is keeping it fresh, relevant, and untainted by scandal. Because while the affair rumors that once defined them have faded, they have not disappeared. And all it would take is one misstep, one photo, one careless comment to reignite the storm. For now, though they appear untouchable, smiling from the deck of the Kourou as the Mediterranean sun sets behind them, leaving the world to watch, speculate, and perhaps even envy the life they have built together. A life that, for all its complexity, seems to run on two things: shared ambition and an unshakable ability to turn even the most controversial beginnings into a story of triumph. By the time the world had adjusted to the sight of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez as a married couple, they had already shifted into the next phase of their public life, a phase that would see them not just as lovers or newlyweds, but as power brokers. in global conversations about wealth, influence, and the future of humanity. And yet, while they embraced this elevated role, they were still shadowed by the unshakable fact that their love story had not begun in the tidy way most fairy tales do it, had started under a cloud of speculation, and that origin story still lingered in the background, like a ghost. People could not forget the affair rumors, the blurred timelines, the synchronized divorces. And so every new chapter was viewed through that lens when they were photographed in Paris, some dining at a private rooftop restaurant overlooking the Eiffel Tower, where the some saw romance and chanting. Others saw strategy when they hosted political leaders aboard the Kourou sometimes to discuss climate initiatives. Some applauded, cameras tried to catch their reaction in quieter moments. Others wondered if it was all carefully curated image work. There were personal stories, but what few outside their inner circle understood was that both Jeff and Lauren were intensely aware of the narratives that followed them. And legacies they had studied them, Lauren's analyzed them, and in some cases even leaned into them, because they understood that in the world they inhabit, perception can be as powerful as reality. With Bezos, this awareness was on full display when they attended the World Economic Forum in Davos, walking into rooms filled with presidents, billionaires, and media executives as if they were the co-chairs of a summit that existed solely in their orbit. But the emotional, they were photographed side by side in coordinated winter attire. Smiling for cameras one moment and deep. She was now in conversation with foreign ministers. The next each photo was a piece of a larger mosaic. Words like an unspoken reminder that while they may have begun as a tabloid scandal, they had evolved into a global brand with a shared mission. But even as they moved, with calculated precision, there were private tensions not born from mistrust, but from the sheer scale of the life they were building together. Aboard some of the most expensive Lauren had spent decades crafting her own career before Bezos entered the picture. And though she had photographed in the embraced the role of partner to one of the most powerful men on earth. Cruising in Cabo, she was determined not to lose her own identity. With a backdrop, this meant continuing to run Black Ops Aviation, speaking at women's empowerment events, and pursuing creative projects like her children's book and its upcoming sequel. It also meant asserting her influence in the philanthropic ventures they undertook, ensuring that her priorities like education access for children with dyslexia and resources for underserved border communities were fully represented in their work, but enough to create these personal passions sometimes led to intense discussions between them about resource allocation, timing, and messaging. From the yacht and beyond, Jeff, a man accustomed to making billion-dollar decisions with minimal outside input, was learning that in this partnership, the final call would not always be his. And while these disagreements never spilled into the public sphere, they were part of the real, unfiltered marriage taking place behind the perfectly staged photographs. Their friends say these moments of friction were not signs of weakness, but proof that theirs was a relationship built on two strong personalities, each unwilling to simply fade into the other's shadow. And that tension, that push and pull, was part of what kept them engaged, not just with each other, but with the world around them. Still, there were moments when the outside pressure crept in for all their control of the narrative. They could not stop the occasional headline dredging up, and more like their partners, the resurfaced gossip, the speculative op-eds asking if their love could last under such a relentless spotlight. These stories rarely broke new ground, but they had a cumulative effect, like a background hum that never quite goes away. The couple learned to address it with silence, focusing instead on the tangible work in front of them, like the expansion of the Bezos Earth Fund's Greening America's Cities project, which Lauren championed with a series of appearances in low-income neighborhoods earmarked for urban canopy development. She spoke passionately about the benefits of green space, on mental health crime reduction and community pride, because this was standing in playgrounds where children ran past her without a clue that she was one of the most photographed women in the world. At the same time, Jeff was deepening his investments in space exploration, unveiling a new timeline for Blue Origin's lunar missions, and quietly funding research into technologies that could, one day, allow humans to live beyond Earth. Lauren supported these endeavors not just publicly, but by becoming a student of the field herself, sitting in on engineering briefings, asking questions that surprised even senior scientists. She was no passive observer in his world, just as he was no detached financier in hers. Together, they built a rhythm that blended intimacy with ambition. Yet the greater their combined influence became, the more they found themselves navigating the politics of envy. Other power couples watched them with a mix of admiration and suspicion. Social media dissected their every move. Their wealth made them untouchable in some respects, but it also made them targets, and they knew that a single miscalculation could invite a level of scrutiny that even their resources might not be able to contain. This awareness hung over them during their most public moments, but it also fueled their determination to get it right, because for all the money and all the Access, their greatest shared fear, was not scandal, it was irrelevance. And so they kept moving, kept making headlines, kept aligning themselves with causes and conversations that would keep their names and faces in the center of global attention. In the quiet moments when the cameras were gone and the yacht engines stilled, they would sit together often on the upper deck, with the ocean stretching out endlessly before them, talking not about the past or even the present, but about what came. Next, their shared vision was bigger than any one event, bigger than Venice, bigger than any controversy. It was about legacy. And in their minds, legacy was not built in silence. It was built in full view of the world. In the end, what has defined the journey of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez is not simply the arc from scandal to stability or from whispered headlines to choreographed photo ops. It is the way they have taken ownership of the narrative, refusing to let it be written for them when the world first caught sight of them together. The storyline seemed fixed: a billionaire risking it all for a forbidden romance, a television personality caught in a storm too big to control. Yet step by step, they dismantled that framing, replacing it with something far more formidable. A partnership that is at once deeply personal and undeniably strategic. Theirs is a love that has been lived in the open, yet somehow still feels partly unknowable. A mix of shared ambition, mutual admiration, and the kind of relentless forward motion that leaves no time for standing still. They have navigated yachts and boardrooms, red carpets and rocket launches, the cynicism of critics and the adoration of fans. They have seen their names become shorthand, for wealth and spectacle, but also increasingly for influence and philanthropy, and yet the truth behind closed doors remains theirs alone. That is perhaps the most enduring mystery, that for all the access, for all the images and interviews, the full reality of Jeff and Lauren exists in the spaces the cameras do not reach. And maybe that is the secret to their resilience. They give the world just enough to stay fascinated while keeping the core of their life intact. From the outside, it may look effortless, but anyone who has studied their rise knows it is anything but. Every public step has been calculated, every silence deliberate, every appearance designed to feed the twin forces of curiosity and credibility. They understand that in a world where attention is currency, you cannot simply hope for it, you must cultivate it. And they have become masters at doing so, without losing sight of each other or the future they are building now. As they look ahead, the path is wide open. There will be more ventures, more causes, more breathtaking displays of wealth, and perhaps more subtle tests of the bond they have forged. But whatever comes next, they will face it the way they have faced everything else, side by side, aware that the story people think they know is only a fragment of the one they are actually living, and that the true measure of their legacy will not be the headlines of the past, or even the photographs of the present, but the impact they leave behind when the spotlight finally moves on. And in that moment, whether they are still sailing into the horizon or standing on a launch pad watching humanity take its next step into the stars, they will know that they did not just survive the noise, they rewrote it.
This video covers legal allegations in a news context. All claims are from official filings and no guilt is implied until proven in court. Please keep all discussions respectful. Allegations are not facts until proven in court.